Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lit Up Lightworker podcast, bringing you fun and soulful interviews with spiritual teachers with the aim of tuning you in and lighting you up. My name is George Lizas. I'm the creator of the Elemental Healing Practitioner course, a spiritual teacher, intuitive, and the author of Be the Guru. I'm thrilled to have here with me Sandy Newbigging. Sandy Newbigging is a coaching and meditation expert, author, and the creator of Calmology. His books include Mind Calm, Body Calm, Calm Cure, and Funk. Shaped by thousands of hours of clinical practice, his remarkable work has been featured on television stations around the world. The founder of the Calm Academy, Sandy facilitates retreats and trainings. He lives between the UK and Spain and travels widely. Sandy, welcome to the Lit Up Lightworker podcast.
Thanks for having me, George.
So I want to kick off this interview with the question I ask all my guests, which is, what has been your journey to doing this work in the first place? In other words, what is your hero's journey?
My hero's journey is trying to stay sane in a crazy world. I always felt there was a purpose for this lifetime. I always felt like I was here to do something. I was not able to do the classic 9 to 5 type of life where you do that, have a few kids, picket fence and retire and then die. I felt I needed to make sure I had really lived in this lifetime, and something inside me wanted to know what it really meant to be truly alive. And so that's been my journey. I don't know what life would be like without the help I've had along the way and the insights I've learned along the way. I think I would have literally gone crazy because I was not very comfortable with my mind. I didn't really have a good relationship with it, and it was governing me, limiting me, hurting me, stressing me. And so I really knew I needed to do something about that, learn how to calmly coexist with this mind and not just, pacify it almost, but actually be able to use it as a tool, be able to make the most of having consciousness and exploring this magical planet. So, I had difficult things happen to me, like most other people have had happen. I don't know if there was one particular something. It was more of an accumulation. I couldn't sleep. I had an eating disorder. I felt lonely all the time. I just felt like a foreigner, like I'd been put here on planet Earth and without a manual or a way home to where I was actually meant to be, And so, so I'm really delighted to have found all these things and be able to share them with other people.
And I love the way you started. I wanted to keep saying, and you share a lot of your own struggles in this book. It's very autobiographical, which is something I really loved about it because it helps the reader really connect with you and your journey and shows how you've been through that. And it was out of your need that you wrote this book. Now, many people are familiar with your books, Mind Calm, Body Calm, Calm Cure. How is Mind Detox different, and how does it fit in all the Calmology process?
Well, Mind Detox is very different because it's a form of, some people could call it therapy. It's not really got much meditation in there at all. Having read it, it's not really meditation. I refer to having, being present and aware, best you can throughout the process. But Mind Detox was like the first technique that came to me in 2006, 2007. I've written about it in 3 books, but I really feel this is third time lucky because I felt with this book, like you said just a second ago, when I sat down to write it, I had written about this technique a couple of times before, and I thought, what's going to make this one different? Why bother in the first place? Because you know what it's like, George, writing a book. It's hundreds and hundreds of hours and lots of love put into it. And I realized that in order to make this book different and to actually have the impact I wanted with it, I had to share parts of myself I'd never shared before. I didn't realize until sitting down to write this book how much myself I'd quietly been keeping a secret. Mainly because there were parts of myself that I hadn't learned to love yet, and therefore I was unwilling to share it with others for fear that they might not love it too, for fear that they might reject it too. Obviously, if I've completely got peace with it, then it doesn't matter if someone else rejects the ideas or whatever. I was hiding because I was actually scared of being seen, but it was really the parts of myself I didn't want to look at. And so that's what was really made Mind Detox a real journey for me. You'll see that every single chapter starts with a personal story about how I personally used Mind Detox to heal things like, I think I said, eating disorder, anxiety, insomnia, loneliness, all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the answer you got.
Perfectly. Yes, that's what I realized with this book as well. It goes really deep in finding that root cause, which relates to what you're talking about, those unconscious beliefs and fears and the shadow part of yourself that you didn't feel you could share previously. And now, as a result of writing the book, basically, using your own process, bringing them into the light, which brings me to the question of our current health culture is all about treating the symptom rather than finding the root cause. And your system helps people get to that root cause of the symptoms so they can obliterate the symptoms completely. Can you talk a little bit about how these core issues or traumas are created in the first place? Do we all have them? Do we all suffer from unconscious beliefs?
I think it's not necessarily a law that says we have to suffer from them, but I think we've definitely all had events in our life happen at young ages when we didn't have the processing capability or understanding of life in order to perceive these events in their entirety. And so as we're young, we've got very little life experience. We're coming to conclusions about life all the time. And especially in our early years, we don't actually have much life and context for that. And so it's very common for us to come to the wrong conclusions, come to the wrong conclusions about ourselves, other people, the world we live in. And so, I do believe that I've not yet met a single person on the planet who doesn't have some, what I call toxic beliefs that they could do with cleansing. And that's another reason why I think, this is a technique that you just want to have in your toolkit. At some point in any self-help, personal development, mind, body, spirit, self-awakening journey, you're going to bump up against certain beliefs. You're going to have to transcend your belief system. And it's great to have a technique in your toolkit. Even if you think, oh yeah, I've done that. No, healing our belief system can be a process. And I'm not saying you have to be sitting every day trying to figure out your beliefs and resolve them. I'm saying that life actually shows you what your limiting beliefs are, your toxic beliefs are. Life is constantly showing us in whatever we're finding currently challenging in our life, what we're finding hard to do or achieve in our life, emotions we're consistently feeling but we'd rather not feel. All of these things are evidence of an underlying some form of toxic belief. And so using the Mind Detox method, you can go in, find the root cause, resolve it, and see what happens, see how life improves.
So that's a perfect segue to my next question, which is how do we use the Mind Detox process? Do we just sit every single day, okay, let me unearth beliefs and traumas that I have? Or as you just say, they are reflected in how your life is, and therefore you get triggers, and then that triggers you to go deeper and use this technique. Can you talk a little bit about how you envision people to use this technique?
I don't know about you, but I've got much more pleasant things to do than to want to sit and navel gaze and completely analyze every orifice of my mind in order to try to find beliefs.
Yes.
What I say is, have this technique in your toolkit if you come up against something. If something negative is happening in your mind, emotions, body, or life, and you don't know why, then this is the technique that can really help. That's its kind of niche. That's its target market, so to speak. And so if you have emotions happening like anxiety or unease, or you get angry and frustrated more often than you'd like to, or you think is healthy, then there's probably an underlying cause. If you have a health condition, of course, treat the symptoms, but explore if there might be a mind-based cause, especially if you're interested in integrative health and taking a holistic approach to healing. You want to make sure you resolve the mind stuff and change the attitudes that might be foundational and supporting the health condition. Really, the goal is to clear the attitudes to a point where the mind-body connection is so pure that conditions just simply cannot exist in that inner environment of peace, of awareness, of pure perception, as I refer to it in the book. If you have a habit that you keep doing, a behavioral pattern, if you're noticing that you have money, then you lose money, you have money, you lose money, or you notice maybe you're self-employed, and you notice you're making the same money every month. What's that all about? Surely it should go up and down, but you seem to be, plateauing at a certain amount. It's basically, if something's happening, you observe like, oh, that seems to be a pattern, or that seems to, maybe I'm not just a victim to life, maybe there's a cause within me that's causing it. And if that's your mentality, if that's what you're open to doing, then that's when you'd want to use it.
I love what you just said in the beginning. So notice the emotions or the circumstances that keep coming up and you don't know why you created them. So that's the unconscious part. So how do we bring an unconscious belief into conscious realization?
Well, first of all, your life is telling you exactly what your beliefs are about yourself, other people, your physical health, your aging process, your energy levels, your sex life. It's on every aspect of life. We're walking around in a 360-degree mirror, reflecting back to us our beliefs about outside world. As above, so below. The outside reflects the inner. And so, if you're curious to find out what might be happening, if there might be a toxic belief or something happening, then explore what's happening in my body. What's happening in my emotions, what's happening in my life circumstances. So that's one way of doing it. Sometimes when you're doing Mind Detox, you don't necessarily know what the belief might be. You just know that there's a issue that needs resolved. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the Mind Detox will reveal the belief as you go through the process, but you don't necessarily have to know what the belief is in order to start the process of healing it. Because the way the questions work is they go in to uncover the mental perceptions from the past that are impure and helps you to purify your perceptions.
And talking about the questions of the process, let's go briefly into them so that people can get an idea of what this process entails. So could you briefly outline what the Mind Detox process is basically?
So we assume that a person knows they have an issue they want to resolve. They want to get to the root cause of and resolve. And so question one helps them a person to, or step one helps you to find the root cause age, when. Step two helps you to discover the root cause event, because you might not be aware of the event that's causing this. So the questions help to pull out of the unconscious realms, these subtle realms of the mind that we have a perfect memory, but we don't necessarily remember without the right questions. And so the questions help you to remember the event, which is the what. So we've got when and then what. Now, the cool thing with Mind Detox is we don't dwell on the what. We go immediately into why. Why, for me, was it a problem? What happened? Whatever the memory in the past is, what was about what happened that was a problem for me? Now that's important because there's not we're all unique. And so there's not two people on the planet that are the same. Nobody has the same perceptions of life and reality. And so you can't assume just because X happened, Y is the reason that's a problem. You need to find out for yourself. What is it about this that was a problem for me? How did it make me feel? Why did I feel that way? And when we get the feelings and the reason, we end up with step three, the why, the root cause reason. Okay. Once we get the root cause reason, that's like the heart of Mind Detox. So it's what kind of sets it apart from traditional counseling or therapy or psychology. It's why a lot of counselors, therapists, and psychologists have chosen to train with me and become Mind Detox practitioners.
I love it.
Because it's a swift way to go straight in without drama, without dwelling, and find out really what is the root cause of this issue. Now, once you've actually finally found the root cause, and until we know that, it's hard to resolve it, we then move on to resolving it. So step 4 is, why not a problem now? And there's certain questions in there, they're very powerfully worded, that help you to very quickly get peace with that past event. There's then a technique where you do what we call the install the knowing, whereby once you actually got the learnings, you install them in the body-mind, which is a really beautiful process. It's very simple, doesn't take more than a minute. And finally, step 5 is testing the work. Is the root cause event, does it feel emotionally neutral now? It should be 0 and completely at peace. Is the root cause reason, does it still feel true, or is that emotionally neutral? And if I consider like something similar happening in the future, how differently do I respond, and would I be able to kind of welcome it as opposed to resist it, fight it, be scared of it, or whatever? And so that's really the 5 steps of the Mind Detox method: when, what, why not, and test the work.
I especially love step 5 because sometimes I think of like the issues and the unconscious beliefs, limiting beliefs we have as like an onion. You keep peeling and peeling and peeling and peeling, and there's more and more and more. So how do we know that we've reached the root cause and not one of the many causes that are created by the root cause? Is it step 5 that will tell us for sure?
There's 2 answers to that question. Number 1, the root cause reason will be emotional. You'll have like, you rate it out of 10 from how true it feels and how strong the emotion feels when you consider the reason why that was a problem for you. Like, for example, you're in the park, you're 3 years old, this dog's running towards you, all with its teeth out and everything. And so when we track back, the person said, scared I'm going to die. So that would be their root cause reason. Scared was the emotional, I'm going to die might be the reason. And then fast forward a few years, that person's got panic and anxiety attacks. They don't know why. Well, no wonder, because they've got a belief running, I'm going to die, and their mind is filtering every moment looking for potential threats, and it's freaking them out. So if you get to step 5, you install what we call the antidote learnings, and that root cause reason is emotionally neutral. We know a belief has been healed. Why? Because you feel different. You see, our beliefs are informing our feelings. Our beliefs are the justification. We believe it's justified to feel X because of Y, okay? And if we can go in and if we then do all that, the Mind Detox, and then the emotion's gone, we no longer feel justified to feel the same old way. We know a belief has been changed because we no longer believe it is justified to feel that way. Does that make sense? So one way is to test the work is on the emotions. Do I feel at peace with the past? Because I personally believe you can be at peace with absolutely anything that's happened to you. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds. That's not just these people that say that. I've lived out a suitcase, and for years I've been doing one-on-one Mind Detoxes with people around the world. I was on TV in 30 countries. It got me very busy, and I was just basically doing Mind Detox after Mind Detox. Okay, I've done hundreds of sessions. I've worked with some serious past stuff. I'm not even going to share examples because I don't want to put these pictures in your mind, but what some people have gone through, they've got peace with it. They got peace with the past because they've not worked on what, which you can't necessarily change necessarily. You focus on why, the root cause reason. Resolve the reason why it was a problem, and you can have peace with the past. So the emotions are a major way of knowing, have I got all the causes or one of them? The second way to know is simply what happens in your life. Does the physical condition heal? Do the emotions, old emotions that were troubling you, are they still there? If you are triggered, can you let go of it much quicker than ever before? Do you notice your bank balance changes? Your relationship becomes closer. You have less conflicts or whatever. Do you understand? So if someone's working with me with one-on-one mentoring, if we've had a big session and we think, you know what, that's a big root cause, I'll say, go off for 2-3 weeks, go live, and then come back and feedback what's changed, what's different, and what's the same, and all the rest of it. And then we'll work deeper if we need to. It's very real. It's not, I love to test the work as well, because I think some people are almost scared to test the work if they do a process, because it's like some therapists or practitioners, they don't really want to get a bad result. So they'll just kind of go, well, that was very nice. We learned something good today. See you later, as opposed to what's changed. You've got to like stick with the results, and I think it's very empowering for the person, because they start the session with something that's been a problem sometimes for decades.
Yes.
And then they leave the session and they almost can't believe that it was ever a problem in the first place. And that's so liberating. And their body loves having less stress, less negativity in there. And if the body has create a symptom in order to adapt and survive some sort of trauma, then by resolving that, the body is able to adapt again by returning to health. And we've seen so many cases of that happening.
Which is why you talk in the book about the importance of rating how you feel about something in the beginning and in the end, like, for example, with EFT, that again, you talk about in the book. So basically, just to summarize this, being mindful of our emotions and what shows up in our lives, therefore what manifests, can really tell us if we've done the work and if we've reached the root cause of things.
I think it's important, even if someone doesn't do Mind Detox. I think that's a very important point, George, that you make there, because we can often think we've done the work, but our life is still a pile of shit. You know,
yeah.
We can think we've done the work because you read some books, we've done a process, but you know, you've got to look at your life and go, you know, am I experiencing better? You know, have things improved? Am I experiencing ongoing peace, happiness for no reason, true love and connection? Or am I still judging the hell out of life and dealing with and coping with life? We're not on this planet to deal with life, to cope with life. We're here to be fully alive and to experience the full spectrum of life possibilities. This work is about helping people create the mindset and attitudes necessary in order to have harmony with their humanity, so that they can actually more peacefully coexist on a daily basis. So that's really the overarching goal of all the commodity stuff that I do, is that, you know, conflict keeps us connected to what we don't want, it keeps us wreaking what we don't want. As long as we're in conflict with stuff that's happened, is happening, or might happen, we're going to be recreating it over and over again. Peace is not only possible, but I've found to be the solution to most problems. And stillness is the secret to success. And so the commology stuff, which Mind Detox is one technique within 4 that works for different purposes, they're all about ultimately helping people to reduce the reasons to leave themselves, reduce the reasons to leave the present moment, reduce the reasons to suffer, so that they can just naturally have a great life.
And you made the excellent point all about like checking to see if the work we've done has actually materialized in our lives, because in this community, when we go into spirituality and new age, we read so many books. I don't know about you, but I have so many books I keep reading and reading and reading, and I'm like, okay, this is inspirational, but am I applying the work? Am I doing the work? So thank you for making this point, because it is so important for people to not just read for inspiration and for a momentary pleasure, but really do the work and get long-term happiness instead.
Reading a meme is not your self-help quota for the day.
Amen. Indeed. Okay, I want to move. You mentioned a little bit like therapists and psychologists, and this is something that I've been talking a lot of with my best friend. She's a psychologist, and she's been telling me about this ongoing argument the psychologists have between them about the different approaches. Some people use a psychoanalytic approach, others use a cognitive behavioral therapy approach, an integrative approach. Where does Mind Detox fall into this argument? And also, how do we avoid from activating our trauma again in our vibration and manifesting more of it? You kind of answered it, but let's go a little bit deeper.
Well, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the Mind Detox method does not dwell on what's happened. In fact, you know, yes, what happened, the amount of time you're talking about what happened is a very small part of a Mind Detox session or the process. So there's very little talking about the past to the point where you're regurgitating it, going over and over again, and therefore reactivating your nervous system and energy fields, or making stronger the neurological connections in the brain and stuff to make it more of a tendency for the future. Listen, we have there are many tools on this planet, and I would never say one is even better than the other, because I think we find the tool that we need at that moment in time. Some people will come to me and go, well, oh, I'm so over counseling because I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to resolve it. But they need to go through the counseling and talking about it to get to a point where they're ripe and ready to actually do something else. Ultimately, everybody just needs to close their eyes and find stillness and peace. But not everyone's wanting to do that or ready to really commit to meditation. So, you know, there's many different ways to do things. But what I would say is I'm actually wanting someone to be temporarily reactivate into the problem, into the trauma. But don't worry, you're not like bawling your eyes out or rolling around the floor. But you want at least some emotion there. Why? Because especially if you're dealing with some sort of health condition, you want to activate the energy in order to transmute and change the energy into a new one. Said differently, if there's no emotion whilst you're doing it, it's going to be very heady and intellectual and conceptual and not actually embodied. Okay? Most physical conditions started off as a thought, some sort of thought, then which was feeling some sort of feeling, and the thoughts and the feelings are kind of like a quiet knocking at the door. If we don't listen to the hint that we have some sort of issue or resistance or judgment or unseen conflict, it will usually show up in the physical realm, because we didn't get the message at the the thought realm or the emotion realm, so it turns into the physical realm. And so if we're dealing with a physical thing especially, then don't be afraid of feeling during a process. The good news is, though, the process is very protective and supportive, and because you're in a process which is moving towards resolution super quick, once you've got the root cause reason, you immediately move into learnings, resolutions. Now, I'd love to talk a little bit about the learnings. Actually, it just came to me because I recently, the Naked Professor. Have you heard of him?
Yes, of course, yeah. Of course. And so I've seen he's trained with you these few weeks ago.
Yeah, he came to my house in Spain, and we were I was giving a Mind Detox, one-on-one masterclass type thing. Getting prepared to do that with other people. And what was really cool about that is the big shift that he saw was how Mind Detox is not about happy, clappy, hippie, tree hugging, positive learnings. It's not positive thinking. You're not just trying to think about the past in a more positive way. That's not what this is doing. Because if you get like a learning like I'm lovable or I'm good enough or I'm worthy, these kind of, the top shelf, most common affirmations that sound good, but few people actually believe. I'm lovable, I'm worthy, I'm enough. These ones. If you come up with a learning like that, you then need to go, well, what justifies that learning? What do I know that helps me know that?
Yes.
And what's the evidence? Because if you're working within the mind, you have to work by the mind's rules, and the mind loves justification and evidence. The belief is currently supported by evidence and justification. We need to give the mind new evidence in order to have a new belief. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And so if you are doing these sorts of things and you're doing processes like these, could be you're doing other things, but they might include learnings. Make sure you're always working on real life learnings that are, yes, they're positive, but they lead to more freedom. So when I'm teaching people, I'll say positive, loving, and freeing. It's just the three elements to a really good learning. Do you know what I mean by when I say learning? Does that make sense,
yes.
right?
Yeah, of course.
It's a resolution.
Growing, yes.
Yeah. So learning whereby you're at the process where you found the problem and you're resolving it. And you're trying, what can I know now? If I know I never felt this way in the first place, or something like that. So let's say someone goes, I now know that I am loved. That person loved me. They didn't mean what they said. I now know they love me. Great, that's a lovely learning. It takes the positive, takes the loving, but it's not necessarily freeing.
I think that feeling of relief that we find when we move from one emotional state to a more relieving one, basically, that's freedom. That's what you're meaning, right?
Yeah. I also mean by freedom, like literally liberating the person's life. If a person includes a learning in themselves, installs a learning that causes them to continue to be dependent on circumstances being a certain way, they're still not free because I'm still dependent on that person loving me for me to be okay. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So if I was working with someone and they said, oh, I discovered dad loves me, I'm like, great. But what would you need to know in order to be okay, even if your dad hadn't? And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa. I'm like, what were you to know in order to be at peace, even if your dad didn't love you? And if you get an answer to that question, then they're more free because they're no longer dependent on being loved by the external world or a particular person. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So with Mind Detox, we're wanting not just positive learnings, not just loving learnings, but freeing and liberating learnings.
That's the real work, because I feel that in the spiritual community there is so much over spiritualizing our problems, being in denial because we're afraid of we're going to manifest more of it, but it's not about manifesting. You're reactivating it to transcend the emotion into something more positive, and therefore do the actual work rather than just stick a positive affirmation, post it on our wall, and repeat it every single day without allowing ourselves to feel like. So thank you for making this point.
Well, I say that, just one more thing.
Yes.
On that. It's like if someone comes to me and says, "I've got a physical condition, can you heal it?" I'm like, "Well, first of all, you're the healer."
You're the healer. Yeah.
But what I will say is, I can take you to the water, I can show you it,
Yes.
but you're going to have to drink it. And what does that actually mean? It means you're going to actually have to be willing to change your attitudes. You have to be willing to change your attitudes about something. If it's a physical condition or a chronic relationship issue that you've shown up in relationship after relationship, or a money issue that's always been appears to always been there. If it's a chronic or persistent issue, then usually it requires an attitudinal change.
Yes.
So what does that mean? It means if you think we're going to do a session and you're going to heal, but keep the same mentality as you had when you first showed up, then you're kidding yourself. It's important to actually be willing to be changing your attitudes to a point where you're literally seeing a new reality. Because that's really what an attitudinal shift can do. You literally don't see the same old world that you used to see. And when you're not seeing the same old world that you used to see, your body isn't experiencing the same old world that it used to have to endure or protect itself from or whatever. And when you make an shift like that, that's really when the body is able to really, truly, truly heal a condition, because it's adapted to survive something. The body's not against us. The body's its prime objective is to be able to continue to be alive. The conditions it's creating are usually a symbolic representation of the adaptation of something. So, for example, if someone's got psoriasis, 9 times out of 10, there's some sort of external threat, bullying, fear of attack, because psoriasis is an extra thick layer of defense, right? Eczema, on the other hand, is usually eczema, on the other hand, is usually separation anxiety, for example, because the skin's becoming hypersensitive, trying to reach out and find what it's lost. That could go on and on about all the different common mind-based causes of conditions, but they're often very symbolic, and the body's adapted to survive. So if that person with psoriasis, for example, no longer perceives their world as a scary place, the body no longer feels it needs to protect itself from this dangerous world, and therefore it no longer needs to do the psoriasis.
So it's all about changing our attitude and being willing to do the work rather than just read about the work, basically. Which brings me to another limiting belief. So I work a lot with people. I guide people through past life regressions with the aim of healing past life trauma. So many people in my community, I call them light workers. Their biggest fear in following their life purpose has to do with, I'm afraid that people will judge me. I'm afraid that I'm going to be rejected. And they associate that to a series of past lives where they've been witches that were burnt on the stake. And they feel that all those past life traumas are coming up and affecting their current lifetime. So I'm going a little bit woo-woo here. But my question to you is, can the Mind Detox process be applied to past life traumas as well?
Yes.
Simple question, simple answer to a very complicated question, but yes.
I know, I don't want to step on toes or say anything out of line, but let me share my perspective on this, and knowing that I'm not saying anybody has to share that, okay?
Yeah.
So you can edit this out if you want, but my perspective is I'm a modern day monk. I became a monk in 2008. I prioritized peace and meditation in my life for a number of years, and at the heart of my monk path is mastering being present. It is no longer dwelling in the mind, realm and living in the moment.
Mm.
And we've all heard about being present, but there's one thing knowing about it, and there's another thing actually doing it.
Yes.
Because being present fully is to surrender everything that exists outside the moment, to surrender the thoughts, all of the mind, to surrender caring about how you feel, because it's the mind that cares how you feel, and the moment is always offering a new emotional potential. And if we're dwelling on old emotions, we can't actually experience the newness of now. I can talk about more about that if it's interesting to you. Long story short, the more I've meditated, the more I've played with being present, the more my relationship with time has changed.
Yes.
And I'm sure it'll change more maybe as I go. But let me tell you where my relationship with time is now. My relationship with time is it's not linear. The only place that is linear is in the mind. The reality appears to be time is more like stacked on top of itself. Everything is happening now. Now is the only moment that exists. Now is the only moment that anything has ever existed. And now that is the only moment that anything is real. And so when you change now, you change all time and space.
Wow, yes.
All time and space. You change your future, you change your past when you change now, because now is where it's at. And so you can use processes to change past lives, or you can just stay within this lifetime, because if there's something to heal from a past life, it will be showing up in this lifetime too. There'll be evidence and examples of it in this lifetime. And so you can do processes of past life because it's kind of fun and it kind of creates some space between you and it can feel safer or more comfortable or more interesting or whatever. There's different, motivations for using past lives. When I first started teaching Mind Detox to other people, the first question was actually, if you were to know, was the root cause before, during, or after your birth? And if they said before, you would say in the womb or before. And if they said before, you'd say past life or past down family tree. And so when I first started doing it, I did incorporate past life work. Personally, I desire to see if I could help more people with Mind Detox by making it a little bit more mainstream, because I kept getting feedback going, this is actually, it could serve greatly in the mainstream. I love the alternative as well, you know what I mean? So don't get me wrong. But
absolutely,
I chose actively to drop the past life stuff from Mind Detox and just focus on this lifetime. But the justification for that shift within the process was a shift within myself and my relationship with time. And if something has happened in the past life, it will be showing up in this lifetime, resolve it this lifetime, you resolve it for all time and space. And so it's super exciting. I genuinely believe we are changing the past when we heal and change something in the present. So it's not even like you're just, like you literally are changing the past. Does that make sense? Like it's literally...
You're changing your perception of the past. So you're seeing it through new eyes.
I'm going further. If you said woo-woo, so you give me permission to say this. I genuinely knew it's changed. It never happened.
I love it. I always teach to my students that we're all the lifetimes we've ever had, and we allow ourselves to see ourselves in this body as all the lifetimes we've ever had. Then by making changes in this lifetime, we're changing it all. So that's a powerful way to end this interview, Sandy. Thank you so much. Now, before we finish, let people know where can they get in touch with you to learn more about Mind Detox. Of course, they can get the book from Amazon or from all bookshops that sell books. And where can they learn more about the Mind Detox process specifically? Do you have any courses, any trainings?
Yeah, I do. I have anything from just wanting to learn it for yourself through to actually being a Mind Detox practitioner. The Mind Detox practitioner is an 8-month online course with me, and you get your own dedicated trainer as well. You can do it from anywhere in the world, and it's a legitimate insurable qualification. And it's a great tool to add to any toolkit you already have. Okay, so go to calmacademy.com for that. But for everything with me, just go to Sandy Newbigging. If you see my name written somewhere around here, because it's probably hard to spell, sandynewbigging.com. You have a nice website there that's got my online membership community where you learn Mind Detox and meditation in there. You've got my Calm Academy, you've got my one-on-one mentoring books and lots of free resources. If you want to see Mind Detox in action, head over to my website, because actually Ben, Naked Professor, and a couple others have offered to be guinea pigs and be filmed doing Mind Detox. So you can actually watch on my website people going through a Mind Detox, so you can get a real feel for the session and stuff. But I'm really hoping that lots of people want to actually be a practitioner of this, because I think it's a great way to bring more peace to the planet.
It is indeed. It's a powerful method. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I can't wait for people to check out Mind Detox. Thank you, Sandy.